What's going on, Beamer fans? Welcome back to Beamerview. For today's video, we're going to be going over the M1 and M2 buttons. If this is your first time on this YouTube channel, Beamerview, what we do here is teach you everything there is to know about BMWs. We go over every single hidden tip trick in the book, and we do features reviews. So if you want to learn everything there is to know about your BMW, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel because we put out content every single week. Before we get started, if you guys needed some BMW car mats, the links for those are all going to be right down below. They are going to be in the description and they are going to be in the comment box right down below, so definitely check those out at the end of the video. Also, if you guys need a BMW key fob covers for the new BMW key, those links are also going to be right down below, so definitely check that out. And without further rambling on, let's go ahead and go over the M1 and M2 button. So everyone, if you guys are completely brand new to BMW M cars, BMW M cars have had these M1 and M2 buttons for the longest time. They have been shown in all different types of ways, but for the newest generation for the M cars, they are going to be located here. Now, I am currently sitting in a BMW M4. The BMW M3 also has it there, and the M2. But basically what these two buttons, these two red buttons do are basically programmable buttons. Now, if I look to the right side of my screen, you're going to see some pretty cool adjustments that you can make to your BMW M car. The way that I got to this screen was right down below. I pressed on setup, and then in any BMW M car, if you press on setup, what you're going to see on the screen is going to be this guy located right over here. And so what this guy can do is you can pre-program your setting to be a shortcut on either one of these. Whenever you start a BMW M car, it is going to start in a default comfort setting mode. It's not going to start in M1, it's not going to start in M2. So let's just say, for example, whenever I start my vehicle, it is always going to start in this efficient mode with all these parameters located here. Now let's go ahead and go over how we can go ahead and program these two guys. So the benefit of having BMW M1 and M2 helps a whole lot because you don't have to go flipping through the buttons here to choose your right mode that you want to be on. Let's just say, for example, if you were just cruising along and you wanted to pre-program M1 to just be all your comfort settings, which are all right here, you could program it to be a comfort setting. Or let's just say right here, if you wanted to go into a full-on track mode, you can set up all these guys to the maximum on the right side so your vehicle is ready to go, and you can click and hold that down, and then you can go ahead and save that really aggressive mode. Most BMW drivers, they do keep one on efficient, and then the other one may be on a full-on sport mode that turns off traction control. You can also have one of them to be like a burnout mode. So BMW M cars, they also can go into two-wheel drive located right there. The vehicles can go into two-wheel drive. So you could program one of them to be a burnout mode. You could have one of these guys to be a launch control mode, and then you can have one of them to be a full-on track mode, or you can have it to be a comfort mode. Now, what I did for my car, it is a little bit different. But so here's what I did for my car. So the thing about BMW M1 and M2, there's two buttons, meaning two different modes, but there's actually three modes. Now let me explain what I mean by that. And the best way to explain this is just me having to show you guys how I have mine programmed. So basically M1, I have it programmed to be a nice medium mode. So I have my M1 programmed to be all in sport, and then you can also select how aggressive you want your shift points to be, and then also program that into M1 and M2 as well. So for my M1, if I push on it, you're going to see that all the settings just shifted over to that medium mode, which is that sport mode. I prefer this whenever I'm trying to go more on the quicker side, be more agile. And then also for my M2, I'll have the sequential point right over here, the transmission shift, to be number 2 as well. So in that medium setting located right there. For my M1, I have it set up to just be like a medium or a regular sport mode. For my M2, I do have it set to a full-on Sport Plus. If I go into M2, you're going to see that the settings just shifted over to the Sport Plus mode located right there. So this is my full-on track mode, full-on sport mode. A lot of people, they do also have the fact that you can set your traction control to be in either MDM mode, four-wheel drive sport located right there, or even two-wheel drive. But I personally like to keep my traction control on because I'm not the best driver in the whole world. So I do keep my traction control on, but I do keep all this stuff in the most aggressive modes there. Now, that third mode that I was talking about, a lot of people don't get this. The mistake that they made is that they will set this guy to be a efficient mode. You really do not need to do that because, say for example, if you were in M2 mode, you just push on that one more time, and then everything just went back to that efficient mode that we started in whenever we started up our car. So yes, technically 2 buttons, but 3 different modes. This is just going to be our regular efficient mode. This is the modes that we're going to be on whenever we start the car. If you go into M1, we're going to see our sport mode get activated. we go into M2, we're gonna start to see Sport Plus right up there. So yes, instead of trying to set up M1 to go back into the efficient mode, just press M2 one more time, and then you're gonna see that M2 up there just turned off, and then now we're back into the efficient mode. So that is a good way to set up your M1 and M2 buttons, in my opinion. That is how I have it set up on mine, and I think that you should too. But yes, the other options you could do is set up one to be a launch control mode, so that if you were right at a red light and you needed that quick acceleration to beat somebody off the line, you can have M1 to be a launch control mode and just get up and go. You can have M2 to be like a burnout or drift mode. Completely up to you, completely customizable to however you like. Also for M2, I forgot to mention, I also have my shift point up here to be in the most aggressive mode as well. So those are the two ways that I have mine customized for my M2 and M1 buttons there. Not only that, you also have two buttons right over here where you can configure manually what you want those M1s and M2 buttons to be. So right here we have M1 configuration, which obviously it is pertaining to the M1 button. And then right here we can set up our parameters however we want. You can already tell from the previous portion of the video that I did have everything set up in regular sport mode. A lot of people question the transmission part right here. This transmission part that you see right here, D1, D2, D3, and S1, S2, S3, that is going to be pertaining to this little guy right over here. So the part that people get confused on is they're not sure what the S1, S2, S3 is, because yes, you have your D's and your S's right here. The D1, D2, D3 is regular automatic mode, and then the 1, 2, and 3 are how aggressive the shift points are in automatic mode. If you go right down here, S1, S2, S3, that is in manual mode, and then the 1, 2, and 3 is how aggressive the shift points are in the manual mode. So yes, you can also program one of these buttons to go directly into a manual mode where you can go ahead and shift your gears. So you can also program it that way as well. I personally just like to keep it in D2 and D3. So D2 and D3 right there. And whenever I do want to go into my manual mode, I just nudge this to the right side and go ahead and activate the shifters or paddles located here and here, or you can also do it up and down right over here too. So that's where I keep my transmission setting right there. Again, chassis are located right there. DSC is also the traction control for the vehicle. MDM is also the four-wheel drive sport. You can also completely turn off traction control if you wanted to do your burnouts and drifting. And then the really cool thing about this is that if you do turn off your traction control there, it gives you access to this guy right here. And then you can go into four-wheel drive sport here or two-wheel drive if you wanted to. And then if you do go into that two-wheel drive, you can activate this M traction control mode right here. So this is a additional option that you can get for your M car. It basically controls the sensitivity of how aggressive you want your traction to be, which is really, really cool. Auto start stop is located right there. Again, usually that has been off since day one. I've probably only used that once in my entire life. And the only time I've used start and stop was when this one time I was going through a drive-through and then the lady couldn't hear me through the speaker, so I had that on, and then that quickly just turned off the engine so I could just talk in the microphone. That was probably the only time that I've ever used that. I'm not sure why they have it. M sound, which is the same switch as you see right down here, this M sound button right there. I honestly don't think it makes too much of a difference. What I have noticed is that if this guy's on, you're gonna hear a lot more burbles whenever you're in the Sport Plus mode. So that does control the burbles of the vehicle. Even if you have this off, the vehicle still sounds quite loud, but again, just controls that more deeper burbly sound that you would hear in an M car whenever you're downshifting and trying to have some fun with the noise. I have used this a few times in my neighborhood whenever I'm trying to start the car really early in the morning. I turn this off before I start the car, so it does start pretty quietly. So that does help a little bit in that sense. For the most part, I keep this on and just set it and forget it. And then probably our last M button that we're gonna see here is the M mode button located right here. All this would do is bring up the screen. It basically controls the safety features within the car. So our typical road mode is just gonna be our regular road mode here. But you'll see what happens if I go into sport. Watch the left side. Let me try that again. Right here on sport, if I push on that, you can see the whole gauge just completely changed. So that's one really cool thing about that sport M mode. What it will do is not only change the screen, but it will reduce the safety settings so it will be less intrusive whenever you're driving really aggressively. Allow the car to be a lot more reckless, I guess you could say, but in a good way. So that is one really cool thing about the M mode right there. There is also a track mode, which basically will completely turn off the safety and warnings. And then if I were to activate track mode, it would turn off the screen so you can completely focus on the road too, and the instrument cluster. Now, the really crappy part about M mode is that you cannot program this M mode guy, that guy right there, to be one of the 2 buttons here, which is a really big bummer. I understand why they didn't do it, because it's completely 2 different things. The M mode button, the road sport, that's more for the safety stuff of the vehicle. But if BMW did do that, I think that would have been a really cool idea. Say, for example, if we could program M2 to bring up that gauge there, it would be really, really cool. But unfortunately, it is not the case. You do have to press on M mode whenever you want that gauge. Another cool thing with the gauge cluster here, you can see that my heads-up display just kind of changed up there too. So you can see the RPM go up and down. That is also quite useful because that helps you shift at the right time, which is really, really cool. So that is a quick overview on the M buttons on a BMW, the M1 and M2 buttons. Definitely feel free to ask away any questions. Check out those links right down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like it, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys next week.